Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk. Hello.
Hello.
We got loud shit coming right through the wall here. So there's going to be background noise, and there's nothing I can do about it. Welcome to a live episode, not for you guys listening at home, but we are filming this in front of a live, I wouldn't call it a crowd, but we are at a writers conference and we have awesome people in here, so it doesn't matter if it's a crowd.
Yay! Though one of them missed the menu to not wear black.
That's true. You missed the memo. I'm not wearing black. But, so yes, we're here at Pikes Peak Writers Conference, and we have guest David R. Slayton, who you guys should know at this point, and if not, you can just go back and listen to the previous one. But he's been on before, and we have, I think we put you out as K.A. Olgren, correct? So we have her here, and she has been a guest on the podcast before, so that's fun. So you might hear her voice and recognize it. I don't know. We're not going to tell people to shut up. We might talk to them directly, and we'll just have to deal with that.
There are people here who have been mentioned on the podcast before.
That's true, and I guess we'll decide if we'll just do that when they could conceivably hear us.
We'll play that by ear.
Through a wall. There will be profanity if you haven't listened to the podcast before. Most likely some inappropriate stuff. We've been here for, I don't know, like more than 12 hours today. And we're recording that after
It's been like a year and a half today.
Indeed it has. I had a debacle in the bathroom while you guys were out there waiting for me outside the bathroom. It's not a big debacle. It's a little debacle. But it amused me, and I was just in the bathroom being amused by a variety of things. So I'm wearing these overalls, and they have 3 buttons on them. And I have this name badge on, right? And so I undo these, and I've got all this stuff in my pockets. I have so many things in my pockets right now. I have face huggers in my pockets, and a phone, and glow sticks, a mask.
Rotisserie chicken.
Look, it's a great mask.
A brick.
I was going to have cucumber snacks, but I ate them. And I should have really just gotten a cookie and stuck it in there for later, too. So anyway, I'm trying to balance and hold the front of, the bib, I guess you would say, of my overalls in the bathroom. And as I'm trying to pull this down in the back, the buttons get caught on my name badge. And so here I am suffocating myself, hanging myself with my name badge in the bathroom while you guys are out there, chatting, chilling. And I'm just dying.
If you had screamed, I would have run in.
And then I did finally get an arm back there and find where the freaking button. So it was a debacle. And then I went to the bathroom and it was fine. And then, but that was my little mini debacle.
You don't want to die that way. You're going to end up on a podcast.
And here I am.
I would definitely have a memorial podcast and talk exclusively about that.
Exclusively about that. It's really not a long story, so you would have to have other things to talk about.
I know things about you.
Well, we would go into all the contents of her pocket.
Yes, we would have.
I'm sure there's shit I didn't show you yet. So, and I had already removed this face hugger, so there were multiple face huggers.
Okay, I would just like to point out that at the banquet this evening, the MC thought it would be a fun idea to wear a face hugger, a full-size face hugger over his face while he was addressing the audience, which meant all we really could hear was...
It was a bit Charlie Brown teacher.
It was.
It was oh my God.
But I said, please remove the proboscis from your face hole.
I do want to point out that one of Shannon's face huggers is a cuddly plushie face hugger.
It's so adorable. That is awesome. So cute. That's because Becky Davis gave that to me, and she's the one who created our logo, actually.
Yes.
So, see, it's a nice little tribute to Becky. I knew that. I'm just going to keep staring at your goggles. This is what's going to happen. Because there's a light. I'm like a moth. No,
so if you're listening to this recording, the theme of this year's conference, Pikes Peak Writers, is The Future is Now. And tonight, a lot of people are wearing different sci-fi stuff, like Star Trek uniforms, or in the case of Kim, who's amazing, She's wearing this incredible LED light up visor that you can click a button to change colors. So every time I look over, it's a different color. So we're all very distracted by the shiny lights because we're very tired.
They're like Tron goggles.
But to be fair, we are all easily distracted anyway.
Correct. I was actually, while he was talking, just like trying to see if my glow stick was actually glowing by looking at it in my hands. And that's just life here.
I think we should get credit because normally when we do the podcast, we're recording it at Shannon's house in her office. And I mean, I have shoes on, I have combed my hair, I have mascara on, I have on pants. And I never look like that. I mean, I've worn a muumuu to her house to do the podcast. In the summer when it's hot,
I'm a full-time writer. I have this and Housewife on Acid and nothing in between. Like there's no middle setting.
I'm currently in, is it a muumuu or is it overalls day? So that's kind of my life right now. Like just trying to find soft overalls because apparently that's my midlife thing. I don't know.
If you could just invent like muumuu-alls or cover moo, you could like $1 billion idea.
That's true.
I
can't.
I'm really sorry to mention that.
Really? Like everybody now is like...
Everybody's got a different look on their face, but it's all kind of...
Who knows what is in what image is in each person's brain out there right now. Yeah. So, but I just don't want a waistband on. That is really my goal in life right now, is to not have a waistband. Because they're evil and I hate them. And also you have to walk around and like keep pulling them up and... it's hard. It's a hard life.
Inflatable dinosaur costume. Then that's not even.
I love those so much.
We have a few.
I should have worn a space inflatable T-Rex.
That would have been good.
For my book Rogue Community College, it has dinosaurs, so we bought some inflatable dinosaur costumes to do TikToks and things with, and they are a lot of fun.
I love the memes that say, my best friend said to show up in disguise with a shovel, and you see somebody in one of those big ass T-Rex costumes with a shovel, because I'm like, that's me. That would be me. I would show up in disguise, but it's not going to be.
But how can you dig with such short arms?
I don't know. I'd figure it out.
And I have tiny arms. So I don't remember the actual line from Meet the Robinsons. It's been a long time.
I'd hire it out.
I had small children.
I would hire someone to do it.
And then you're like, it's over there. It's over there. You see what I'm pointing? So
I can see where we're going right now.
We're gonna outsource that. Us?
Straight to heck.
Yeah. I don't know where that is.
They don't talk about it much. It's kind of like the lesser known.
Is that Presbyterian hell?
I think it's the medium place. You get beer, but it's all
the medium place.
You get beer, but it's all Coors.
Or it's room temp. You get your favorite beer, but it's room temp.
Or warm.
With a nod from Colorado. Because Coloradans don't drink Coors. No. That's our anti-Coors commercial.
People in Texas seem to drink it. But...
Every time my family comes to visit, they're like, we're going to go to the Coors tour. I'm like, I will take you to better beer. I will pay. I will give you money to go drink better beer. Please don't.
Does Laughing Loud have a tour?
Like, but you get a free beer. I'm like,
Bristol?
It's Coors.
Bristol.
Why?
I bet you could call Mike Bristol and he'd give you a tour.
Be like, hi, Mike. I have relatives, and you start it with, my relatives wanted to go on a Coors tour, and he'll be like, just come over.
I bet he would.
I'll show you an actual beer, maybe. So, all right. Have you guys done anything interesting today at all?
Today?
Or is your brain dead and you've forgotten it all?
I accosted a man in the bar and made him buy me a drink.
Oh, that works.
Was it that man?
Might have been.
The visor is now blinking, y'all. We are all very hyper distracted.
Okay, no, I can't with the blinking.
You're going to cause a seizure. If you have epilepsy, please don't stare into Gim's face. This room is used for other presentations. And
it is. I did come in and belatedly, I could have shown the pictures of the people I'm going to talk about, but they didn't give us tech support, And while I'm actually surprisingly tech savvy, I also blow up tech. It's my supervillain power. It explodes. I explode light bulbs. I blow up computers. I can't wear a watch. I even tried a kinetic watch because I was like, come on, that's different. It was just virtually like spinning. Like the hands would go all over the place. It was the wrong time all the time. I would fix it. It would go out. So even a kinetic watch was not the answer. And I don't know why I thought it was.
I can't.
It was just different. So I thought perhaps it would work.
I hate to use this word in conjunction with you, but could it have been optimism?
I'm actually a surprising optimist.
I know you are.
Like, I surprised myself the day I realized I was an optimist. I was like, wait a second. Like, I'm like always thinking that maybe something will go okay and miraculously happen to fix the thing.
You're like, holy shit, is this hope?
Right? Exactly. I was like, what is that feeling?
It's like the person who said to me, I think you self-identify as a bitch, and I don't think you're right.
And you were like, hold my beer.
I said, the next time I see you, I will let her out to play. And he was like, no, I believe you. It's okay. It's
Never mind.
Don't go to any. And I was like, no, you want to see the bitch? That's not a problem.
That's right.
Exactly.
It's all right. We expect, like, if people want to talk, people can talk. This is a different kind of episode.
Make a comment.
Pikes Peak After Hours.
Yes. After dark.
After dark. Oh my.
Oh my. Oh my.
Oh my.
Oh my.
I went to see Addams Family this week, the musical.
How was that?
So it was kind of cute, but I felt like they didn't have a good grasp on Wednesday and Morticia.
Oh.
Morticia was like, said Gomez was like, she's like, you're going to sleep on the couch and you're going to do this. And I I was like, Morticia doesn't play those kinds of games.
No, she does not.
That was why I liked Morticia.
Yeah, she's clearly the dom in the relationship.
Right. The guy that played Gomez, though, was awesome. They all kind of chose which one they were going to be, right? Which representation. So he was a Raul Julia Gomez, which is
best.
yes. I grew up on John Aston. I love him. He was goofy, but Raul Julia is my Gomez.
Did I ever tell you what broke my opinion of John Aston? It didn't break. I saw him. He was in a softcore porn called Candy.
I think we've all been stunned into silence. Like
across the room,
And when I saw him in this movie, my jaw dropped, and I went,
Softcore porn?
Candy. I think it's called Candy.
there's gonna be Googling.
I can't believe nobody has.
I know so much that they're like, why is John
Phones have been
Aston like
lifted.
trending?
What's the Wi-Fi password?
Well, it has to maybe do with porn.
What?
Hard candy. That's what it's called, seriously.
Oh no, it is.
Are you? Is it? Okay, you've seen it. It's an old movie.
It's John Aston.
Are you being serious or are you fooling me? Oh,
But so John Aston is in that movie,
had other
and once
stuff,
I saw him in that, he could not be Gomez Addams anymore in my head. It just,
I've watched way too much TikTok now, so when I hear, I'm thinking corn instead of my brain reroutes. I'm like, wait, what am I? Oh, that is the actual word.
softcore corn.
Yes.
Corn.
Soft corn.
soft pork
Soft
corn.
corn.
Oh, boy.
PBWC After Hours.
I should also point out that normally I haven't been drinking when we do this.
That's true. It's usually like afternoon. And whatever other quabbles, whatever other issues we might have, we're typically
And
not
we do
like,
have a lot.
oh, look at
sometimes.
that. It's time for some vodka. On this fine Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
Okay. Also, the lady who played Mama was awesome too. And she was like a total Carol Kane Mama, right?
Oh,
and there
nice.
was a whole shtick she did about, I can't do it justice. But she was talking about how things change. And it was a whole physical comedy thing about her breasts as she was an older woman and just like eventually her arms just hanging down. And she's talking to Pugsley and Pugsley's like, I get it.
That's what you want to talk to your
And then she
grandchild
keeps
about.
going and and the audience is laughing and he's like, please stop. And she's like, I'm not doing anything.
Oh my God.
So it was a mix. Yeah.
Okay.
But I was just happy because when it opened, like, all these people grew up watching it in the audience because they did the song coming in and everybody was snapping. It was just and they played that whole thing. And that was such a cool moment though. We didn't discuss who's going to go first, but I'm guessing probably me.
It's you.
Okay.
Unless you have testicles in yours.
Quoi?
There are no testicles in this one. I'm sorry. I apologize.
There aren't really in mine either, but
I'll do better next time.
do better.
It's like, this is a requisite.
Shannon, the ball's in your court.
Well done. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed that experience.
You know, recording the podcast in a room of our favorite people is not a bad thing.
It's not.
Could y'all come over to Shannon's house once a month?
Wait.
Bring it on.
Hold on. I gotta clean.
Wear muumuus.
We're moo-moos.
We're starting a cult.
An overall moo overall cult.
An overall.
Moveralls.
Moveralls and overmoo.
Oh my gosh. So you can sell coverall versions for people who have to work difficult jobs. You get moveralls. Comfortable coveralls. Like,
But I need our mascot to be a Highland Coo.
Oh,
Yes.
Because I love them so much. I adore them. Because they're moveralls, right? Come on.
I love it.
and yes, this is about how serious we always are.
I mean, my topic is about to get serious, and so that's going to be a little weird.
So, nice little pivot to murder.
Mooder.
Oh, for fuck's sakes.
Alan Kuzman.
When did you become Canadian?
Well, that's a long story. It's coming soon, right? Like, it could happen, actually.
We're all calling Kevin Hearn. Get us out.
Help.
Ooh, it's warm in here.
All right. So I am covering the lipstick killer. This was also in my pockets. It's lipstick.
She's holding up
I
lipstick.
have lip gloss. I have also lip gloss, but it's like cosmetic lip gloss, and it sucks. All right. Anyway, and a cough drop, which I get to put into my mouth when I'm done talking.
I don't know where else you would put it, nor do I want to know.
That's maybe what I'm covering next time. We don't know.
Well,
Okay.
after
We just
seeing your
need-
stress ball trick.
It's incredible. Anyway, go ahead.
This is going to go well. It's gonna, right through this, I'm sure, I'm certain. Okay, so the lipstick killer. On June 5th, 1945, the body of a 43-year-old Chicago woman, see, it got serious, was discovered. Josephine Ross had been stabbed 4 times in the throat. The killer had wrapped one of her dresses around her head and had covered the stab wounds with tape. Josephine had managed to tear several dark hairs from her killer's head, and those were still in her grip. As far as anyone could tell, nothing had been stolen, and I say this for a reason. Though it did appear the apartment had been ransacked, witnesses, or she was messy. Whenever I read that, I'm like, are you sure?
Could have been my house.
Witnesses had reported seeing a man with dark hair running out of the apartment building.
There's always a witness who says that, though. It seems like.
There's always somebody leaving an apartment building,
Exactly.
I feel like. So it just depends on the time. Like, I saw somebody leaving. Oh, yeah, me too. On December 10th of the same year, another body was found. Frances Brown, 32 years old, had been shot in the head, and there was a knife still sticking out of her neck that had been jammed so forcefully that it had come out the other side. Towels had been wrapped. It was a bread knife, they said. Towels had been wrapped around her head. She'd been stripped and cleaned and was in her bathtub. As with Josephine, there had been no theft, but this time the killer had a message for the police. Written on the wall with red lipstick was, quote, "For heaven's sake, catch me before I kill more. I cannot control myself." At the time of the crime, police said the apartment had been wiped down and that there were no prints, but there was a single smear of blood on the door jamb. Gunshots had been heard at about 4 a.m, and the night clerk had seen a man acting strangely. I mean, it's 4 a.m. Right around the same time. He was described as being 35 to 40 years old, about 140 pounds. It didn't say if he had dark hair. He had been leaving the building, and he caught the clerk's attention because he looked nervous. But, like, the clerk was staring at him. So, like, at 4 a.m., was it a walk of shame, or was it the killer? We don't. There's no way for us to ever tell. These 2 murders were buried in the back of local papers. These were not front page murders. These were like, hey, these almost middle-aged women are dead and we don't care.
Can you imagine what the murders for the front page had to be like if this was like back page?
Right?
Like, this
They're
is
like 2 in a row. No big.
Yep.
But this next one would find its way onto the front page. On January 7th, 1946, less than a month after Francis's murder, a 6-year-old girl, Suzanne Degnan, disappeared. Her parents discovered her empty room about 6 a.m. and called police. When police arrived, they discovered a ladder outside her window, as well as a crumpled ransom note inside. The note read, quote, "Get $20,000 ready and wait for my word. Do not notify the FBI or police. Bills are in 5s and 10s. Burn this note for her safety." They received, it came through the wall from somewhere else. They received multiple calls from a man insisting he had her and that they pay the ransom. They just kept coming in like, all right, when are you going to pay? Like, not a smart person was doing this. Hi.
We just started the murders.
We just started the murders. That's right. The mayor also received a note. It said, quote, "This is to tell you how sorry I am to not get old Degnan instead of his girl. Roosevelt and the OPA made their own laws. Why shouldn't I? And a lot more." It was like, that's some awesome word salad, dude.
That sounds like Bowen doing Mad Libs.
Quick background on what this was referring to, because I was like, I feel like that can't just be like hanging there. No. And we're moving on. So, quick and dirty. OPA was the Office of Price Administration. There was a meat packer strike at the time.
Okay.
And the OPA was rationing dairy products and stuff kind of related to that. Degnan was an executive for the OPA, and several of the executives had been receiving threats, had bodyguards, but apparently he didn't have a bodyguard. Sadly, an anonymous tip was called in, which led officials to Suzanne's head, which they found in a sewer. They spread out to search further, ultimately finding her torso and both legs in different places. They were all in like drainage ditches, sewers, that sort of thing. It would be a month before they found her arms, and by then they had already actually interred her. So I don't know what they did with the arms at that point, but just...
Well, at that point, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't matter at that point. A search of an apartment building near where she disappeared led to blood in the laundry room located in the basement. The blood was in the drains and in tubs. The coroner said she died between 12:30 and 1 a.m., which I do not believe for a hot second they could get it to within a half-hour window in the 40s. They can't even do that now accurately to that extent. So he said whoever had killed her had done so via strangulation, most likely, before taking her to the laundry room. She had not been killed there, and that the killer was either a man who worked in a profession that required the study of anatomy or one with a background in dissection. Not even the average doctor could be as skillful, he said. It had to be a meat cutter, which makes sense, doesn't it, after what I've said?
So a meat cutter is more skilled than a doctor?
In like wholesale, probably chopping off limbs and stuff like that, I would say that, because that's not typically what doctors are doing a lot of. They're doing little cuts. Just some organs. So he went on to call it, quote, "a very clean job with absolutely no signs of hacking."
Ugh.
Police felt it might be a meat packer, so they were like, yeah, okay, we get it. Like, this makes sense, dude. A witness reported seeing a man with a shopping bag approaching the building late the night of the murder. He said he was around 35 years old, dark-haired, 170 pounds, 5'9". This murder triggered a massive investigation. Of course, this is a lot different. This is a little girl. She has been torn apart. And suspect after suspect was brought in, questioned and polygraphed. Over 370 men would be questioned. And what was he? He was the state's attorney, Twohy. Every single time they brought another dude and he went, "He's the one." And he'd go to the press and he'd say, "We found the killer." And no, dude, calm down.
It's like an episode of CSI.
Right?
We have the killer. Oh, wait, there's evidence. Okay, now we found the killer.
Wait, this isn't the third person we've brought in. It can't be the killer. That's why I had to stop watching.
My favorite part so far is she's under 40. We care.
Right, exactly. Oh, this isn't just like some 30-something-year-old woman? We should look into this. One of those men was Hector Verberg, who was a janitor in the apartments where Susanna had been kidnapped. He was taken into custody. The evidence against him was that he had used the laundry room where the blood was found in the past, and that the ransom note had been dirty. This one killed me. The ransom note had been dirty the way they'd expect it to be if written by a janitor with dirty hands. How gross is that? You don't think he washes his hands?
And no one else has dirty hands?
Somebody climbed a ladder on the outside of a building, went in through a window. Have they ever seen how dirty the outside of a window is? And then went into that bedroom? Of course there's dirt. That one I was just like, that's rude. Wow. Verberg was beaten, blindfolded, and in his words, quote, "They handcuffed my hands behind my back and pulled me up on bars until my toes touched the floor." One of his shoulders was actually separated. They pulled it out of joint, dislocated. Luckily, he belonged to the janitors union, and their lawyer got him out within 48 hours based on unlawful detention, and he was able to get to the hospital immediately. He was an immigrant from Belgium, and it was discovered that he couldn't even write English well. He hardly knew English. When I read another of his statements, it was mixed up like you would expect from somebody who's not of English isn't their first language. So there was no way the note was written by him. So he sued the police department and he received a financial settlement. Not only that, but his wife also had her separate lawsuit because they had pressured her into saying it totally could be him and trying to make him look guilty. So she got money from them too. And it was actually a nice chunk when moved up to like today's rates. The ransom calls turned out to have been a teenage prank. They weren't real ransom calls. She was dead.
Teenagers.
She was dead immediately after being removed from that bedroom. Come on.
It's always teenagers.
There are dicks in every timeline.
It's true. And it was one, he was like, well, he said that he did the killing and that I should call, and then the other one didn't do the killing, and they both passed polygraphs, and it was like a whole thing. Police in Phoenix, Arizona, we're in Chicago, this is where all this is happening, contacted Chicago PD and told them about a nurse and drifter they currently had in custody for molesting his daughter. Richard Russell Thomas was from Chicago and had been there at the time of Suzanne's murder. A handwriting expert felt that his handwriting had significant similarities to that on the ransom note. He had previously attempted to commit extortion where he'd threatened to kidnap somebody's daughter. I mean, it's looking pretty good. And the note he'd used had been written similarly to the ransom note. He was not a meatpacker, but they felt his medical training fit the bill. And I'm like, for a nurse? I couldn't find anything saying he had additional medical training that might make that true outside of nursing. But he was also known to lie and say he was a surgeon to people. So it seemed like a personal interest of his. And he had actually gotten in trouble for stealing surgical tools in the past. So he did have an interest in it at the very least.
He was a freelance surgeon.
A freelance.
An enthusiast.
That's
There you
right.
go.
What I found interesting, he was left-handed. And so I was like, I mean, sometimes if you're writing across this way, could that not like smudge ink and perhaps make it look dirty?
As a lefty, I can absolutely attest to that. So all of my notebooks, you will notice I flip them to avoid that exact problem.
Okay. Nobody said that in any of the articles. And I was like, I swear I've heard that. So that could explain it. And he was in Chicago at the time. He'd also been in trouble for spousal abuse before. He was overall a great guy. Just a really good guy. Then he confessed to killing Suzanne on June 26th, saying God had told him to confess. Also on June 26th, though, a 17-year-old college student named William Herons was caught during an attempted burglary to pay for a date.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he was going out on a date, and he was like, he had stolen some stuff, so he was going to go fence it, and then he couldn't, and the bank was closed, and so he was like, okay, I'm going to go pick up some quick cash. And so he had just reached into like an apartment, it said, because there was money on a table and he was taking that. And then he happened to get caught I was like, the cops were just swarming in this area apparently. So what happens is this one cop, he pulls a gun. He had a gun in his pocket that he'd stolen from somewhere else at another time. He pulled the gun. The officer pulled a gun back on him, shot 3 times, missed him. And then
Stormtrooper.
William goes running down the steps at him, right? And he jumps on him, and they're in this big physical battle. And then an off-duty cop in his bathing suit, who had been at the pool at the apartment.
I was going to say, wait, why is he in his bathing suit?
Picked up 3. I was like, this by itself.
Where was he packing?
It's a movie, right? Well, here's what he did.
Well, we can only speculate.
That's right. He picked up this stack of 3 flower pots because they're in the front of people's apartments, and he starts doing, you know, like in a movie where it's like tink, tink, with like plates. So he hits him 1, 2, 3, hits him with the 3rd flower pot. Finally, William goes down.
And this kid got into college. Let's just talk about that for a minute.
He was shocking. He was actually like super smart, which is the sad thing.
Except
to quote Dangerous Liaisons, like most intellectuals, he was intensely stupid.
Yes. Exactly. And he wanted to. Here it is. He wanted to go into engineering.
Having
he
dated
thought medical school was easier.
having dated an engineer.
No,
and
he's
used to
not in medical
work
school.
at an
He's going to
engineering
college
firm,
for engineering.
I used to work with engineers, and bless them, they would be like, I can totally design an engine, but I can't master don't put hand on hot stove.
Yeah, right. There's an engineer brain is its own thing.
Their brains work a different way.
Yeah.
Love them.
So they decide this is the guy that did all the murders. He has a history of burglary, they say.
So
they
take
forget
3
Thomas.
flower pots to the head.
They forget the nurse, right? And they're just like, yeah, this kid, let's do this. So they stuck him in a hospital bed in Cook County Jail. So he's in the infirmary or whatever the fuck it's called.
Wait, are we back in Chicago?
Yes. No, this is all Chicago except for the nurse. They just got the call about the nurse from Phoenix, Arizona.
I had
He's
like a
jail.
whole like Phoenix noir comedic crime book in my head forming.
No, it's a Chicago one now.
Oh, that's a bummer.
It's in some
Chicago.
Chicago. It's in some crappy apartments. So
Your accent today is just all over the place.
honestly, it always is. Because it's all the accents I've practiced throughout my life because I liked them. And I've had, like, on a certain day, if I've said certain words, because have somebody like, are you from the Midwest? And I'm like, oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was not.
That is cultural appropriation.
I was not doing that shit on purpose. It just falls out sometimes. That is called autistic hyperfocus and a special interest. Thank you. And it was accents. So I need to find where I was now.
I'm sorry, I distracted you.
So Thomas is forgotten. Thomas back there in Arizona.
Can go back to spousal abuse and
Forget
horrible
Thomas.
things.
Okay.
He's just going to do his shit. Like, he's gone. He's out of this now. Completely out of this. Herons is their guy. So they questioned him for 6 days straight. They didn't allow him to see his parents, he was 17, or his lawyer, and used sodium pentothal without a warrant or parental permission on day 4. They didn't even tell him what they were doing. They just injected him with that shit because he was strapped to the hospital bed the whole time. And he was punched in the stomach. He was supposedly, they brought in a nurse, and the nurse poured ether on his genitals to try and get him to talk at some point. I was like, did that really happen? That one I don't know. It was in like
I
two
have a lot of
different
questions
ones.
about
We're
that.
going to numb your testicles, and that's somehow going to get you.
And that's going to get it. You're like,
So-
hey, this is great. Could you numb my stomach where that cop just punched me? Or no? Okay.
I could not write this.
For real, like 1940s Chicago PD. That's what we're looking at here.
How many of you are going to Google pouring ether on your testicles?
What are the side effects of this?
It's
What
the
does
next
this do?
TikTok challenge.
Oh my God! Don't do it.
Great, and you're responsible.
Oh,
Bear in mind, he'd also had a concussion. I don't know how that happened. How did the concussion happen? Maybe it was the cartoon flower pot.
It was the 3
I was going to
flower
say
pots.
it was the flower pot to the
And they had put this sodium pentothal, and so he couldn't remember.
Where did they inject that now is the question.
He is not going to do well on his midterms, y'all.
There's
That's
more
all
weird
I'm
shit.
saying.
Like,
Oh, wait, there's more. Wait, there's more.
Wait. So he actually has very little memory of the entire interrogation at this point because he already had the concussion. They did this other shit they should not have done while he
Ether
had a
on his
concussion.
junk.
Supposedly. While he was under the effects of sodium pentothal, it was claimed, he said, he hadn't killed anyone, but that someone named George had. He was also given a spinal tap with no anesthetic. So here I am. They keep saying that. So he said, that's when I screamed. That's what when he's in an interview, he goes, that's when I screamed for the first time. And I'm like, no shit, kid. So they do this, and I'm like, but why? Well, they said they were doing it to see if he was malingering. That's the only answer I have for you. Like, how do you find out through a lumbar puncture or whatever? Like, how do you find out if he was malingering?
He was faking that you beat him up and tied him down and injected him and... Okay.
I was like, all right.
This poor kid just wanted a date.
He was going to get some.
It was just some
Talk about cocked block. It's like ether cock blocking.
cock block for good. God, it's just he just was doing a little petty crime to get a date.
I know, a couple bucks, and this is what happens.
Oh.
So it was just like, can I have some lotion? Not till you tell us you did it. So we just heard from the audience that ether dries your skin out, is what it says when you search online as a side effect.
You would not give a 17-year-old lotion.
I really think that's some...
But you'll give them a Spinal Tap.
I mean, now they know. They can be like, but Mom, there was ether on it. I
There was an
need
ether
lotion in my
accident at
room.
school, and I needed some lotion. I don't think I've ever cried this much.
I am really feeling bad for this kid.
They attempted multiple polygraphs, the first one after the Spinal Tap. So that one, they were like, we couldn't get him to pay attention. Really? Why? But only one was completed, and they announced that it was inconclusive. We're going to come back around to that.
Okay.
It was then claimed that he talked further about George, saying that they'd met when he was 13 and that it was George that would send him out on burglaries as a teen, something he had gotten in trouble for before. He did get in legal trouble. In fact, he'd been sentenced to a monastery-adjacent academy. So it was like a boarding school, and it was like part of a monastery. There were monks and everything. So he was there for 3 years, and he actually excelled so much at this school that he graduated at 16 and was accepted to college in a special program. Little did he know where that would lead. He had stolen several weapons over the years, including guns, and he was 13 when caught by police that first time with a loaded gun. His parents were poor and fought a lot, and he talked about he'd just leave the house to get away from the fighting, and he'd wander the streets, and somehow, miraculously, he fell into the money, I don't know, and stole some shit. But so yeah, he was very open about, I've been stealing shit for a really long time. Yep, I've stolen things, but I have not killed anybody. Didn't matter. When the George information was leaked, it leaked to the press. They started saying he had a split personality. It became a whole thing. I actually found on history.com or whatever their website is, there's their headline, and it's killer with split personality, convicted for murder. And I was like, he didn't have a split personality. Stop. Just do a little research history.
But he had ether on his junk.
But he had really dry junk,
That would have made it highly flammable.
So then the police are like, either he really has a split personality or he's just trying to get the insanity defense. This is what they're looking at. At some point, the Chicago Tribune printed a fake confession. He heard about it in the prison, that he had admitted to the crime. Just a journalist made it up. All the other papers picked it up because the Tribune had put it out.
Of course.
And now all of the public believes he's confessed. And all of the public thinks this kid is a killer. They have completely turned against him. It has been released everywhere. There is nowhere he can go where a jury is going to be like, I heard about you. Physical evidence is where things get even more interesting. Did you know?
How can it possibly get more interesting?
This was so convoluted. On June 30th, 1946, the captain of police stated that a smear of blood on the door jamb of Francis's house that I mentioned before had actually been a fingerprint. But that it did not match Heron's print. And I'm like, okay, great. Because he said he kind of it was a fog when he first got there. He remembered waking up and they were rolling his fingerprints and stuff like that. And he had these little flashes of things he remembered. But then a couple days later, they announced it did match Heron's prints. It was stated that there were fingerprints on the ransom note, and those were a 9-point match with Heron's. At the time, the FBI handbook required 12 points of comparison or more for it to be a definitive match, but they were like, it's good enough. And they said something about, and I was like, I'm not falling down this rabbit hole. There's already too much shit here, but they were like, when it's loops, it matches 62% of people can match via the loops. So that is not decisive or anything. And I was like, not looking into that more. Sorry, you can. The police conducted warrantless searches of both his dorm room and the Heron's home. There they found plenty of stolen items, of course. Again, he's admitted this. And none of them matched anything from any of the crime. There was nothing missing from the murder scenes that were found in his house. And I'm like, okay, he didn't keep anything. This person who has been committing burglary since he was 12 years old, I think is when he actually said he started, and he's 17 now. what he had that elicited concern was a copy of a book called Psychopathia Sexualis by Richard von Krafft-Ebing, which concerned sexual deviance, as you might have told from the name of it. And he also had a medical kit he'd stolen from somebody that he'd gotten, and they said it had like a saw. It was like a real medical kit. It's like, so people just have surgical kits at home. It's like a chef, and you roll it out in your little leather thing. And
it's like, I will say with it being wartime, those were really
that makes sense. Common. Then you're like, I have this metal. You can't have it for an airplane. So, well, you can't take it and melt it and build an airplane with this. Thank you. So both of these items had been stolen from elsewhere. No biological evidence, though. When they tested it, there was no biological evidence on anything in that medical kit to show it had been used in a murder, nor was any found on any of his possessions. There was no blood. There was no hair. There was no anything that led back to the crimes. He said that he'd taken that kit and had been using items from a scalpel from it, I believe, to alter war bonds that he had stolen from someone else. A revolver he'd stolen was found and matched via ballistics to a crime on December 5th, 1945, where someone had shot a 19-year-old woman through her window in an apartment complex. He'd stolen the gun on the 3rd, so 2 days before this incident occurred. She did live. She was wounded. She was not killed. What followed was a series of confessions, offered and rescinded plea bargains, and threat. I'm summing up pages of data right now. And threats of the death penalty, including from his own defense attorneys, until Herons finally confessed. They made him go into court. There was a whole thing with this, too. They made him go into court. He was supposed to go in to confess. They said, okay, so you did it. You need to confess. And he said, yeah, no, I'm not going to do that. And then they got pissed at him. They dragged him out again. They made more threats. They brought him in another day. He finally confessed.
They threw more flower pots at him.
Employed a little more ether.
They just got the bottle out and waved it at him.
Right. And he was like, no. So he accepted 3 life sentences in his plea bargain, 1 for each of those victims, and spent the rest of his life in jail. I'm not done yet, even though it sounds like it, until he died of complications related to diabetes in 2012 at the age of 83.
Jesus.
He was the first prisoner in Illinois to get a college degree in prison, and at the time of his death was the longest serving prisoner in the U.S. I didn't see that his record had been beat, but I can't say definitively it has not. He was 43 when he got that degree. That's how long he'd been in there when he would, because what he would do is he would just use any money anybody sent him until he had enough, sign up for a class through a catalog, get through that class, and then he just kept doing that. And actually, after he did that, whoever's in charge of the prison brought him in and had him create a program that then allowed other prisoners to get.
Well, hey, no student loans.
That's right. So... That's right. I got nothing else. Days after his plea bargain was final, he immediately... Oh, here was something that I wanted to throw out that I thought was nice as far as all this goes. They allowed him to go walk when he got his degree. He got to go to the college with 2 guards, and he got to walk and get his... Nobody would talk to him because they had a criminal there, but he did get to actually do that thing. Considering he was in there for the rest of his life, it's like the one little thing he got to do that was normal. So, days after his plea bargain was final, he immediately recanted and spent the rest of his life fighting for his innocence, claiming he hadn't done it and that he'd pled guilty in the end to save his life because they were telling him if you don't plead guilty and you get convicted, it's the death penalty. And both of his lawyers, like I said, his lawyers, the prosecution, everybody was telling him he'd be put to death for the murders. He actually attempted suicide at least 3 times during all of this. There was plenty of evidence that would come up over the years showing he might have been innocent. I mean, I feel like we have that feeling already from just how shitty this investigation was. They were eager to close it because it was in the news. It was a little girl. The pressure was on. So his middle name was George. Remember they said that he had a split personality and it was George, and he'd said George. His middle name is George. That's also his dad's first name. One of the 2 psychiatrists who was president for the sodium pentothal administration later publicly stated he never said anything under its influence that implicated him in the murder whatsoever. His polygraph not only wasn't inconclusive, but actually proved he was innocent. He passed the polygraph. And this is stated in the 1953 textbook, Lie Detection and Criminal Interrogation by John E. Reed and Fred E. Inbow. It was felt by many that the fingerprint at the second victim's house was planted as it looked to be in the form of a rolled fingerprint. Like what would be on the fingerprinting card, right? And all experts except one, they kept bringing in experts, said the handwriting on the notes didn't match his. The one that said it did was a big part of the Lindbergh baby investigation, which I'd like you all to think how well that shit went.
That's what we want. That's why we do this, to get that open mouth gaff.
Not only that, but that expert, I'm putting quotes around that, Herbert J. Walter, had a few months before looked at this stuff and said there's no similarities. It's not the same thing. And then at trial, he said the ransom note, the lipstick writing, both matched Heron's handwriting. But he said it looks like it's the different because he was trying to disguise his handwriting. So this looks like his handwriting if he was trying to disguise his handwriting. Who buys that? Like
People who want to close the case.
Yep. Then in 1996, FBI handwriting analyst David Grimes examined the notes and Heron's writing and determined that not only did neither match Heron's writing, but they didn't even match each other. And, okay, I'm going to go into it in a minute. Like, this was all killing me. There had been significant handling by both civilians and non-civilians of the ransom note before it was ever fingerprinted, and chain of custody had been repeatedly violated. It stuck out to me that nothing was stolen from the sites when he started out as a burglar. Not even a trophy. As somebody who was already, and he was taking stuff he didn't need and couldn't, when they went through his stuff, there was stuff in there he couldn't sell, he couldn't do anything with. He was kind of a klepto, right? So he was just taking these things on an urge. And you're telling me he committed crimes in 3 different homes and he didn't take anything? And it seems a stretch to me that the deaths, this was in none of the articles either, come on, that the deaths of the 2 older women were by the same hand as the one that killed 6-year-old Suzanne. Like, there were no similarities. There's no MO similarities. There's nothing. She was in a different, wealthier area. And it just, that doesn't make sense to me. I think there were 2 killers. The pressure to find the killer was, of course, intense, and a 17-year-old seems to me to have been a convenient pawn. Even Josephine Ross's daughter, Mary Jane Blanchard, felt he was innocent, and she continued fighting for him for years. But Suzanne's parents and siblings were convinced he was the one and would spend their lives making sure he stayed in prison. Her sister, she was 6 when she died. Her sister was 10, and I think her brother was 4, and both of them showed up every time that there was anything that could possibly free him to make sure. And I get it. The police said that this person did this to her. I don't think he did. Or if he did, he didn't kill the kid. If he did, he killed the women. I don't know. But in the 1950s, the use of sodium pentothal in interrogations fell out of favor and became inadmissible due to those under its influence being highly suggestible. They were actually using it for, what do they call it then? Shell shock. PTSD. They were using that a lot on veterans. The state's attorney openly admitted he had a great relationship with the defense attorneys and that they had worked together to get him to take the plea deal. And when he said this to the judge said, you know what? This is always the kind of relationship you guys should have. There were 29 discrepancies between his confession and the actual crimes. Journalists in Chicago actually have it's circulated for ages, I guess, say it was a reporter who wrote in lipstick on the wall because they got there before the police arrived and they wanted a better story. Now, there's no proof of that, but this is like, these reporters, this is a thing that's passed down, kind of like an old wives' tale with them now. It's an urban legend for the Chicago journalists. And finally, the transcripts of his interrogations disappeared before the trial, so could no longer be checked for veracity and couldn't be used in court. There was a weird situation with Heron's having said he had thrown a hunting knife he'd used to dismember Degnan from a train near the murder. While the police didn't attempt to search for it, they were like, okay. Reporters looking into the crime did, and they learned that workers had found it and had it in their storage, and they went and they got the knife. And they were able to determine that the knife belonged to the same person that pistol had been stolen from, that had been used to shoot the 19-year-old woman. At no point did the cops care. They never went and got that knife. They never tested it or checked it for biological matter. Nothing was done with this knife. And so I'm like, well, that doesn't mean anything then. And it's unknown what weapon was even used for the dismemberment. A couple random asides. And I was like, you know what? He did steal it. He probably did really throw a knife out of the train because, again, he was admitting he stole this stuff. But this doesn't mean he used it to dismember a child. So a couple random asides. Steve Hodel, a former LAPD police officer who thinks his father, George Hodel, may be linked to both the Black Dahlia murder and the Zodiac Killer murders, feels he may have been involved in this. And I was like, boy, you're really like trying to stick your father in everything, aren't you? Like, my dad did that.
There are no issues there.
Ted Bundy didn't kill anybody. My dad did that. No, I don't. So it's like, I feel like I need to look into this guy. These deaths were also deeply impactful on a 9-year-old Robert Ressler, who would grow up to be one of the original profilers who honed criminal profiling for the FBI and possibly coined the term serial killer. He's had that credited to him. I was going to give Pete a hard time, but I knew he wouldn't be up at 9. So if you go to any, Pete Klismet is here, and he was a profiler who went through Ressler's classes, basically. He did end up getting to meet him and question him as an adult when he was doing all those interviews, like from Mindhunter. And he said he was really excited and kind of starstruck in a certain way. And I was like, okay. And he believes that Herons was the killer. And I'm like, really? Now I doubt every fucking thing that I've ever heard come out of this. Yep. And I am going to give Pete shit about that. But my sources were the Chicago Maroon, Chicago Mag, New York Times, GQ, and Wikipedia. GQ had like a whole like really good article on it. Actually, wow. I was like, okay.
So how do we segue to you?
I don't know. I don't know how to follow that. I do have a.
Speaking of murder.
I do have a beheading. So there's a beheading in this one.
Yeah. Awesome.
So I'm going to read you the Wikipedia article because I didn't write a paper and I didn't research as deeply. So this is about a place in Oklahoma that I just went to called Dead Women's Crossing. I actually referenced this in my book, Deadbeat Druid. It is considered one of the most haunted places in Oklahoma. It is another unsolved true crime from the early 1900s, so a little bit earlier than we were dealing with. So I'm going to read you the Wikipedia article and then we'll discuss a little bit. So Dead Women Crossing, also known as Dead Woman's Crossing, is an unincorporated community on Deer Creek, northeast of Weatherford in Custer County, Oklahoma, United States, at an elevation of 1,509 feet. We don't need that part. But on July 6, 1905, a school teacher named Katie DeWitt James filed for divorce. The next day, she carried her 14-month daughter, Lulu Bell, to a train station in Custer City. DeWitt James was going to visit her cousin who lived in Ripley. Her father, Henry DeWitt, came to bid farewell. Her husband, Martin James, did not come to the station. A few weeks later, DeWitt became concerned that he had not heard from his daughter. He contacted a sheriff who suggested hiring a detective named Sam Bartell. Bartell started his investigation from Clinton, but nobody remembered seeing a woman and a baby there. So she never arrived. Mm-hmm. Then, on July 28, 1905, in Weatherford, Bartell learned that DeWitt James and her baby spent a night in the house of William Moore. So one of the questions that comes up when you discuss it is why would she have gotten off the train? Like, why did she stop in Weatherford? They were brought to this house by Moore's sister-in-law, Fanny Norton, a resident of Clinton who was also known as Mrs. Ham and reputed to be a sex worker. This is where it gets weird. In the morning, Norton, DeWitt James, and the baby left in a buggy, headed for Hydro. Again, she's not going to her destination. Eyewitnesses reported that buggy entered a field near Deer Creek, and Norton came out alone approximately 45 minutes later. Norton returned to Moore's house and then back to Clinton. Later, Bartell discovered that 2 women and the baby were seen around Deer Creek. The detective also was able to find the baby. The witness testified that Norton left the baby with a boy and asked him to take the baby home. The baby was unharmed, but her clothing was covered with blood. While locals searched for DeWitt James, Bartell tracked down Norton, who denied she murdered Katie. Later that day, Norton committed suicide by poison. On August 31st, 1905, so less than 2 months later, DeWitt James' remains were found near Deer Creek, about 20 miles east of Clinton. Her head was severed from her body. DeWitt James's father confirmed these were the remains of his daughter. Martin took custody of their daughter. The murder was never solved.
I feel like we should call this episode Heads Will Roll.
Oh, there you go. I like it. Dun, dun, dun. You could do the like, yeah, yeah, yeah song as an intro. So I grew up in Guthrie, Oklahoma, which isn't too far from this. And these are the kinds of things that you get in Oklahoma. These stories, move around and they drift over towns by towns. You also tend to get this thing about how dead women's, like teenagers will go out there on Halloween and stuff.
Yep.
The barbed wire fence had been cut down when I was just there, so I could walk kind of down to the creek and get a little better view of it. There is also a story that they demolished the original bridge because of all the haunting, that basically people were seeing the ghost of DeWitt so frequently up until 1980. They're like, we'll take down the bridge and maybe that will stop it. Probably the bridge was just 100 years old and needed to go. But it does make for a nice haunting story.
Infrastructure.
Yeah. And so the question is what was happening. And then there's like, well, was the couple, Norton and her guy unable to have a kid, so they were trying to get the baby. That's kind of was the working theory for a long time, is they wanted to steal the child. So they killed her to get the baby and no one would miss her. She never arrived. And it's also a very remote area, so it's very interesting that there's like witnesses that they saw the two women in the buggy. This is outside of Weatherford. Even now, this is a remote spot. Like it's a good place to murder. Can attest.
I feel like a lot of Oklahoma.
Theoretically.
Yeah, most of Oklahoma is a good, Mm-hmm. But anyway, so yeah, it was nice to go there because I referenced it in the book and I put the ghosts in and it was a nice little moment. But it was cool to go there and be able to kind of get the vibe of it. And also it is, even by day, it was a little creepy when you kind of knew about this. So it's considered this very haunted place. And, here we are over 100 years later and no one ever knew what happened.
It seems odd that if they were trying to steal the baby, they would pick a woman who had family.
Well, because she'd left her husband, she's vulnerable, was the theory.
Right.
Or did the husband catch up?
Well,
and kill her.
There is that. But her father was looking for her.
Her father was looking for her. The ex-husband was like, like he seemed to not care. But he probably knew where she was going. True. So there could have been a get off the train to avoid him. So again, it has all these fascinating tangents, but we'll probably never know.
Lots of unanswered questions that let writer people speculate and spin whatever story they want.
I feel like it happens all the time with like these rural stories, though. Nobody puts in the effort to solve them. They become like this great little tale because nobody saw anything except maybe some people in a buggy, right? Like it's too easy to get away with that stuff.
It is, sadly.
And then you have random ghosts in the middle of nowhere. Like I was telling Taylor, I was like, I keep hearing like trestle ghosts, like railroad trestle ghosts. Yeah. I remember looking at one when I was doing a collection.
I talked about one.
Yeah, and you talk like it's like the other lady in white, right? And there's this person who died off this railroad trestle. I'm like, why are they all so haunted? Why is everybody dying on a trestle?
Well, and then one of the things too about that area of Oklahoma, again, having grown up there, is we have this like very ruddy red clay that makes up much of our soil, and all the trees are scrub oak. They don't get very tall, and when they're bare before spring comes, they look like these black clawed. They're short woods, like you couldn't really get lost in them easy, but they had this very ominous appearance. And I just remember walking through that as a kid in the rain, and it would look like the ground is bleeding, and it just has. The whole place is just slightly creepy. So, stick a weird kid like me in that. And it's like, what else are you going to get? But,
I feel like there is so much atmosphere here. Like, I can't actually get around to this.
I grew up steeped in the creepy. It's seeped in.
That's a nice turn of phrase, steeped in the creepy.
Steeped in the creepy?
It's a little hard to say.
That could be our other title.
Steeped in the creepy.
Steeped in the creepy.
Okay. Shall I?
You shall.
I don't have a segue. I do not even.
Do you have a beheading?
Can you add a head?
I can try. I'm like, I don't have a. No, but somebody told me today. Was it you? I can't remember who told me today. They said I learned how to pick up. I know how to pick up a severed head.
Oh.
No, that was not me.
AJ.
And I looked at them and I was like, okay. And they said, by the ears. And I said, well, that's what I would assume, but
Sorry for the hair, but one of the things is when you're passing through a writing conference, you will get these random snippets.
Yes.
That are the weirdest segues. These weird ass segues into like Lewis Black has a joke about that. If it wasn't for that horse, I wouldn't have spent that year in college. And your brain's just like, what? Like you're just.
So recently, I've been car shopping. It relates. So I'm.
Is there a head?
No.
Is there a buggy?
Well, let me tell the story.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm at the dealership, and the salesman is telling me about the car. I said, "Okay, let me start at the back and look at the back." He pops the back up, and I look in, and I go, "I could fit a dead body in there," which is my typical what I say when I'm shopping for a car. It's stupid, but that's me. And the guy without
It's your dad joke for car shopping.
It is my dad joke for car shopping. So without missing a beat, the salesman turns to me and goes, "I think depending on how you folded them, you could fit 2." And I said, "I can work with you. We're set. Find me the car I want."
And if it's double jointed, just never know.
Exactly. The problem is I want a car that is red or blue or any color that's not white, black, or gray.
I need a red car with a 2-body trunk. Can you do that?
With a 2-body trunk. That's all I need.
You know, fuel efficient.
You're the third person who asked me that this week.
There's a spree.
It's a spree. It's a trend. It's a fad. That's it. Anyhow, before I started on my story, which has nothing to do with anything, I have an update on something we did previously. On June 28th of 2023, we aired an episode where I talked about Chad and Lori Vallow Daybell. And while she was convicted and given 3 life sentences for the killing of her 2 children and a romantic rival, she just recently, like last month, was also found guilty of conspiring to kill her estranged husband, Charles Vallow. This was a hideous set of crimes.
She does like those CH names, though.
Yes.
Busy lady.
It's unusual because, and as we've discovered on the podcast, if you're already in jail, if you're already in prison and you're serving like 3 life terms, they generally don't try you for other crimes.
Not worth the money.
It's not worth the money, but they did this time. They got her and her brother for conspiring to kill her estranged husband. So her brother is also in prison. I don't think she's ever getting out. She's never going to see the light of day again.
She had quite the to-do list.
She did.
I wonder how big her trunk was.
I almost said something and I was like, that's not okay.
Okay. Yeah, a couple of very inappropriate things went across.
There were children involved.
Yeah, that's why I was like,
Oh, yeah.
So to move on from sad and tragic to something a little bit lighter, because that's what I do. I do the goofy shit. I'm going to talk about some successful bank robberies. So given where we live in Colorado, people often, when you say bank robbery, people immediately go to the Wild West and they think, 6 guns and the bandana over the face and people riding horses, something out of a Young Guns movie.
Yay!
I knew I'd get you with
They're
that
so
one.
pretty.
So
Pretty.
there were they were pretty, weren't they?
Pretty. And allergic to shirts.
That's my favorite. That's my favorite kind.
Speaking of which, I watched that Reacher episode last night. It wasn't the tater tot noise.
Nope, too much.
I'm not telling people about the tater tot noise, but yes, the one where he's
that was a noise she made and not intentionally one time. And it was about tater tots.
It was about.
So every little once in a while, I got to throw it back at her.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever been that excited about a tater tot.
But how was that scene in Reacher?
You're like, it's like a mountain. I want to climb it because it's there.
And
What do we covet? We covet what we see.
Okay, moving on.
Back to the goofy shit.
Now, I was too busy telling my husband why it was funny and why I started laughing when he got out of it. Because the big guy playing Reacher gets out of the water in just like some trunks, right? Like just his underwear or whatever. And I already knew about the scene from him being. She was like, hey, are you watching Reacher? And I was like, well, I got behind because the second season was kind of dull. So anyway, I see it and I go, oh, Jeffrey! And I just started laughing. He's like,
Because it's
since
not a
when do
funny
you laugh
scene.
at like mostly naked men? I don't know. And I was like, oh, this
But
is
it did come back to tater tots.
It did.
Okay, so moving on. There's no segue anywhere in this. So it's Monday morning. after Bastille Day weekend. It's July 19th, 1976 in Nice, France. A large and well-respected bank was unable to operate as normal because the vault doors wouldn't open, so they had no access to cash. So they're trying to open up, and they can't figure out what's wrong with the door. So they called the safe manufacturer to come in and examine the door. They're like, what the fuck? We don't know. We've never seen anything like this. So at noon, they decide they're going to bust through the door. They're going to do whatever it takes to drill through or whatever. And at 3 p.m., a small hole was opened in the vault. Remember that I said it was a small hole, knowing that someone was going to have to go through this hole. So what they found was a floor inside the vault buried under a sea of paper. Now, when I say it was like 6 inches deep of paper covering this floor. What the paper was, we had uncanceled checks, bearer bonds, stocks, bank books, wills, deeds, stuff that could have been immediately transferred into cash. Sticking out of these piles were muddy tools like crowbars, chisels, and drills. And because the vault door blocked off 3 storerooms, so it was like 3 vaults, a police officer had to enter to be sure that the robber vandals weren't hiding inside waiting to attack.
I got it. I'm going to just slip this in there. I almost did like a collection of little crime capers like this, and I think I know what's coming because I read it.
So, poor detective Pierre Lecoq, I'm not making it up, undoubtedly chosen because he was the smallest police officer present, attempted to crawl through the hole. He had the slightest stature. Let me take that back. What? Okay. He was chosen to to crawl through the hole into the vault. When he couldn't fit, he backed out of the hole, took his pants off, and went through. So
let me get this right.
Yes.
Officer Lecoq took his pants off and crawled through the tiny hole. Is this an episode of The Boys?
Are you sure you're pronouncing that correctly?
No.
Cook. Is it like cook oven?
Well, I don't think you pronounced the last letter, so I think it's Lecoq, but anyway, continue. I don't know.
Don't know, but it's funnier the way I said it.
It is funnier the way. Carry on.
So my thought is, okay, these people are drilling a hole knowing that probably a person is going to have to crawl through it. Why did they not make the hole big enough? I mean, really, how big is an average person?
That he irritated them. They were like, yeah, let's make this fucker climb through this tiny hole. Here's some lube.
Here's some ether.
Oh, I have a sad follow-up fact.
Oh.
He died a virgin. Parents, he had never had sex before he went to prison. He never had sex. He never had anything bad happen to him in a sexual way, even though he went in as a kid. And I was like, really? For some reason, I'm really sad that he died a virgin.
And somewhere there's a girl on a park bench in her best dress with lipstick going, he stood me up.
Right? Well, his girlfriend actually wrote to him in prison. One time, and then never again.
Well, to get money for their date, he robbed someone. Anyway.
Yeah, that's
okay.
commitment.
Okay. So, back to Pierre, who crawled through the hole. He discovered no robbers inside.
Officer Baby Carrot.
But finally resolved the mystery of why the vault wouldn't open. It had been welded shut from the inside. So, police and bank executives listened as Pierre incredulously described his findings. There was a tunnel. There was a portable stove. There was food packaging. There were dirty pots and pans. There were empty wine bottles. And this was just the most disrespectful thing. So they had opened all these safety deposit boxes. You did look this up, didn't you? So they had pulled out heirlooms made of silver and used them as chamber pots. So you have the, yeah. Mm-hmm. So when the vault was finally opened, they found a large peace sign painted on the wall, along with the words, "Without weapons, without violence, without hate." I probably could have found that in the original French, but why? So over...
Pourquoi?
Pourquoi?
These are very complicated hippies.
So over 60 pounds of discarded jewelry and gemstones were found on the floor. So it was like somebody just took them and chucked them. Yeeted them, as it were.
Was there beer involved? Was there beer in there?
Wine.
Yeah, it's France.
However,
Day.
they believed that the jewelry and the gemstones were left because the thieves didn't take anything that could be traced, and those things would be easier to trace. And the tunnel, so it was high on the back wall. It was chiseled through 18 inches of reinforced concrete. It was 2 feet wide, 20 inches high. It was 30 feet long. It was buttressed, so they could get in and out. They had a ventilation tube for fresh air. So this was not a spur-of-the-moment crime. And they had what was basically an extension cord that was half a mile long, so that they had strung together so that they had electricity.
Had they been to Texas? Because that's what my in-laws did with some.
This is like that woman on TikTok who was doing the whole thing under her house. Like this is
Possibly.
Can I also ask a question? So if you have squatters' rights somewhere and you can get into a bank and weld yourself inside and squat there for a while, do you eventually get rights to the bank safe? You're like squatters' rights.
I'm going to
bitch.
guess no. Okay, so the tunnel ended where it bisected the sewer trunk line under the street behind the bank. And it gets even more ingenious because there was an underground river where the robbers used to ferry supplies to and through the sewer tunnel on rubber rafts. So it took, when they started investigating this crime, it took 12 detectives 4 solid days to sift through and identify every loose piece of evidence on the floor of this vault. Every surface had to be dusted for fingerprints. They found one, and they never ID'd who it belonged to. It was like on the underside of a drawer. The owners of 4,000 lockboxes had to be interviewed. Every single person who had a lockbox there had to be interviewed. Every present and past employee of the bank was interviewed, was reviewed and interviewed. It was 100 days before the police had any evidence they could act on. They homed in on 7 men who had rented a farmhouse in a nearby village, but everyone agreed that none of these men were experienced enough or connected enough to have planned and pulled off this caper. Somebody also made the comment they could have taken an apartment in the city, in the town, and nobody would have ever noticed them. But because they got a farmhouse out in the country, what happens in the country? Everybody knows everybody's business. And everybody's like, who are these strange men? We don't know them. So eventually the police came up with the name of Albert Spaghiari. He was a married photographer and a gentleman farmer. And under interrogation, which was admittedly, unlike what you talked about, this was very polite and very civil.
They were like, here's a glass of wine.
They did. They brought in meals. They let him talk to his lawyer.
Would you like some cheese?
They let his wife come in and see him. It was very, very civil.
no ether on the junk.
No ether on the junk. Apparently, they poured nothing on his junk. Maybe he felt slighted by that.
Disappointing.
He eventually capitulated and admitted that he was the brains behind the operation. However, most of the $35 million was never recovered, and Albert never gave up the names of anyone else involved. So, fast forward. In 2010, Jacques Cassandre, a key mafia figure in Marseille, wrote a tell-all book under a pen name. And, of course, it was the matter of minutes to figure out who the pen name belonged to, where he admitted to being the real mastermind behind the heist. So you're thinking, why on earth would he do this? Well, he figured the statute of limitations for robbery had come and gone. He was free to say whatever he wanted. He could no longer be prosecuted. However, in France, there's no statute of limitations for money laundering, and that's what they got him on. That's what they used to indict him. Now, Spaghiari, the guy who confessed, he escaped a few months after his arrest by jumping out of the window of a Marseille courthouse, leaping onto a motorcycle driven by an accomplice and disappearing into the sunset. He just drove off and was never heard from again. He was never recaptured, and he died of cancer in 1989. So I'm like, who writes a tell-all book confessing to stealing $35 million?
I can name at least one person who wrote a tell-all book about murder, but just said, if I did it, and still got away with it. So you can do, people do a lot of things.
Yes. So 11 years, roughly, and 6,000 miles later, in August of 1987, a similar robbery took place at the Bank of America in Beverly Hills, California. So there's no direct connection, but the robbers did the same thing. They entered a storm drain, then tunneled 60 feet to break through the bank vault's floor. This time, the robbers took all the cash they could get their hands on, which was about $91,000, and left the safety deposit boxes alone. Equipment, clothing, and food were discovered inside the vault next to an 18-inch hole in the floor. I'm gesturing like this is 18 inches. It is not. I'm like...
That's a lot of work for 90 grand.
Well... Yes, but it's figured that police believe the same robbers may have committed a June of 1986 robbery of a nearby First Interstate Bank where $190,000 was taken. So they believe that the robbery began on a Friday evening and wasn't discovered, until Saturday morning. So here was why it took a while to discover. As per bank procedure, this was how they operated. No investigation was made until a second alarm went off. So if an alarm goes off, they just assume it's wrong. And they don't investigate until a second one goes off.
That sounds effective.
Right? There's something wrong either with your alarm system or with your procedures. And they believe that there was a lot of heavy street traffic and there was some local construction which covered up the noise that the robbers would have made. And the police do believe the same robbers did the other robbery. No arrests have been made in either one. So now I get to use the word testicles. Shannon is giving me the worst look right now. So I think the Brass Testicles Award needs to go to 25-year-old Dennis P., a Dutch security guard at Gasson Diamonds, who showed up at work one day in 2001 with a large box that he said
had a microwave in it.
Oh, you have.
I told you I almost did these.
I'm so glad you did. Yes, he said this is
that would have been so bad.
My new microwave oven. Why do you take your new microwave to work? What?
Here's why.
Like you do.
But I mean, would you not?
Separation anxiety.
Oh, come on. Nobody even questioned him. So he, when he left work that day, $8 million worth of diamonds, which was the entire stock for that office, was in the box. And for some reason, Dennis didn't come back to work the next day.
Can't imagine.
What a shocker. So approximately a month later, he disappeared and police had no idea where he was. But a month later, he turned himself in. The diamonds had been stashed that whole time in an outdoor sculpture in a city that was 20 miles outside of Amsterdam. So can you imagine if you had had your kids out looking at this sculpture and Mom, what's this? That's a bag of diamonds. Let's go now. It's time to go home. So yes, but he turned himself in, so that one was solved. But bigger and brassier testicles belong to 33-year-old František Prochazka.
Right? You know what? I think that's why I decided not to fucking do these.
I just work here.
Well, like Spajare. I can say that name.
He worked for a security agency in Prague. And one fine Saturday morning in May of 2007, he went to work as usual. At one point during the morning, he entered the company safe, filled 4 metal cases with bills. It says it weighed about 4.5 tons, took them out of the building, loaded them on a van that drove away with the loot. Then he went back inside and finished out his day of work and was last seen driving off in his car. He went in, finished his work, and drove off.
Yeah, he didn't want to use sick time.
Could you have done that? Because if you knew you had all this money waiting for you, would you not have been walking through your office, flipping everybody off, telling everybody to piss off?
Would I have a new identity?
So he just had to have been the coolest of customers, to be able to go back in and just completely straight face and finish working his shift. So police said they were astonished that someone who had been with the company 4 months, he'd been there 4 months and was allowed access to such a huge amount of cash. That branch of the company was censored for that, and they've been closed because they were like, yeah, dumbass, why was this man allowed to just walk into the vault, load up the cash, and walk out? So to date, Prochaska has not been caught. In 2012, however, his accomplice, Milan, we're going to say Chermak, was arrested and sentenced to 9 years in prison. But he has never been caught. He got away with all that money.
How much?
That was, hold on, I have it here. It was 4.5 tons. Why do I not have the amount? I do not have the amount of money. Several $1 million, though. Several million.
Yeah, I mean, of bills. That's nuts. I don't know if it was Krona. Well, it was Euro probably that year. What year is it?
2007.
Yeah, it was probably Euro. It might have been Krona. In which case, it wasn't that much. But it always, I think about like that guy who was outsourcing his job. Like he had a tech job, and he was having people in Asia do his job.
Yes.
And
didn't he have more than one?
Well, yeah. I mean, he had one, and he was coming into the office every day, but not doing any work. He was just watching cat videos on the internet, but while other people in another country were doing his job, doing his actual work. And the reason that he got busted was the cat videos, because like your internet usage, you're going to all these cat video sites. Aren't you getting any work done? Well, his productivity is really high. How is that? Like, and they realized he had hired people he'd outsourced his work. It's like, why would you start why didn't you go to work?
Yeah.
It's so weird.
People are very strange.
So, like, the higher-ups who outsourced the work were mad that he outsourced work successfully for a bit.
Mm-hmm. It was like, start a consulting firm or something. Why are you going to... But you're going into the office, which you obviously don't want to be at, to watch cat videos.
Right? If I'm hiring out, I'm going to be like, I work from home now. I'll be working remotely.
In my
my sources were the New York Times, BuzzFeed, BBC, and the LA Times. So apparently, what struck me about all of these was that they were like something out of a movie, especially the tunneling up into the vault. It's like, haven't we seen that movie?
I love a heist.
Yeah,
and I'm
these
like,
minis, because they're so small, they get good pipes.
If you take your pants off, you can fit into the vault. That's
if you're Inspector Lecoq.
Oh.
I am. Yeah, humanity is insane.
I'm going to leave now. I did. I said it. I own it.
All right. On that note, we'll go ahead and wrap this up, and I'll stop recording. But thank you for listening. And yeah, I'm just going to say sorry about the random applause that comes through, because I don't think I can do anything about that in the editing. But we'll talk at you later.
We will be back next month.
And thank you, David, for being on.
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Anytime. Bye. Bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram, or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back with more shenanigans.